We are recording this Friday morning. It is 9:15. There's no official announcement about any offensive coordinator. Sean Jefferson, I can't confirm, will interview today. 90s Patriots receiver, played 13 years in the league. In the past 16 years, has been coaching wide receivers. So another one of these ex-players from Bill Belichick brought in during this coaching search that otherwise has just featured tight ends coach Nick Caley and Bill O'Brien. So I'm going to take a risk here, a la folks will after they listen to this podcast and put their money down in football. I'm going to assume Bill O'Brien, who has been the primary target for weeks now, according to Tommy Curran, I can tell you is someone that there's strong belief among people in and around the organization will get the job. That let's just assume he's hired. We could look like fools. Sure. I might have to do this podcast over, but let's do this quickly. Let's say he gets hired. Beyond being an obvious fit, what does that say to you?
That a lot of it's going to stay the same, Callahan. Like, this is not going to be some overhaul. They're not going to go to a super 2023 NFL pass-centric offense. So this is going to be essentially the real version of Bill's offense. Whatever last year was, this pretend, stick together, Patricia, Shanahan running, whatever the hell that was, that goes away. They bring an adult into the room, but they don't completely change out the offense. Like, maybe Bill O'Brien takes some different approaches from a college standpoint. He had success at Penn State. Obviously this year they didn't win it all, but they had some success offensively with Bryce Young at Alabama. But overall, it's like you're a year late in doing what you should have done. It feels like this wasted a year of Mac Jones' development, in my opinion. And it was really the only move, unless you wanted to go completely outside the reservation and do something completely different, which Bill is not really known to do. This was it. So it's needed. It's a year late, but it does feel like, hey, we're going back to things we've done before. This is not going to be a huge overhaul of the Patriot offense. That's how I view it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there's, for several reasons I've discussed, and I know you have before too, just about the benefits of O'Brien. He's a quarterback's coach, he's coordinated offenses. Obviously, he could carry some of the old college concepts they were doing in Alabama, perhaps install them into the Patriots offense, as opposed to every single RPO being a little bubble screen, which God knows we saw enough of those screens under Patricia. But there's a sense of normalcy, I think, right? Like, I think with the decision to commit to Patricia, there's some initial angst among the fan base. But because of Belichick's resume, you go, okay, I trust him. And I said this on my podcast, I'm not ready to bury them yet in this last summer. If they want to dig their own graves, I'll let them. If they soar away and succeed, great. I'm not going to make a call yet. Obviously, it goes the way everyone expected. Worst offense since 1995. I think now, at least, when people started to turn on Belichick and you lose some of that benefit of the doubt, now this decision earns some of that back with the fan base. And it's just a reminder that, yes, he's still very much in touch with the reality that the rest of us live in. And there's also a notion that there's some humility here. Like, I think whether it was Patricia or Judge or Belichick to start with, the idea that we could just watch the Rams or the 49ers and implement a lot of those plays without understanding how to package and teach and install and layer those offenses, which have so many minor complexities that don't even come up on film, was just pure arrogance. And look, they might have earned that on a larger scale. Belichick, 8 rings, kiss them all. That's fine. It's just not going to succeed. It didn't. Now bring in a guy who's taught, installed, and packaged offense, the offense that they want to commit to, the old system. I think that's the right way to go. Now, I
don't disagree with you, but as you're saying it, it is annoying that Bill is just so inflexible to bring somebody new in the building that instead of a new mind and try something different, it's a guy he knew, a guy who was going to cost them nothing. They still tried something different. He had no experience coaching it. I like to use the word arrogance because that's really what it feels like. But as you're talking, I can feel myself getting annoyed. Like, why did it have to be this way? Because Bill wants his guys there? Because they don't want to go get Brady or Kafka or somebody different to come look at the offense? Like, it should be annoying if you're a Patriots fan that you sat through this for a year and then a year later with some bad results. That's like, okay, now we'll do the thing we should have done. Like, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
I think our buddy Tom Curran put it best when I did TV with him on Wednesday, when he looked into the camera at the start of early edition and they were asking about Nick Caley. So this doesn't exactly pertain, but the sentiment does. I'm going to back away from the mic here, goes. They go, or why are you interviewing Nick Caley? He goes, he was there the whole time. He was there. He was there. Why did we do this? And said the exact same thing you did. We all watched this whole offense for a year and it get better and get better and get better. And I, might sound condescending to some when I say Belichick's in touch with the same reality as the rest of us. Look, some of the conversations, or I should say the decisions he makes are out of left field and they land over the fence for a home run anyway. Like, going against the grain has paid off for this guy who's obviously earned way more than the benefit of the doubt. The trouble is, obviously, this one did not. And it seemed to be obvious from the get-go, just given how much these coaches work on one side of the ball for most of their careers. And now you have a guy who's done that, who will come in, who's experienced. There's a vision, there's a system. You can add different wrinkles. He knows how to do this. And it also solves the quarterback coach problem, because as much as Patricia got a lot of the blame here, my understanding is Judge, not in a big picture sense, but in a micro sense, there were some issues with him coaching and how that was received with certain players. Mind you, this was also someone who jumped in with the wide receivers and the tight ends, as Belichick told us he would in the owners' meetings. And I've heard that didn't go so well. So
the Judge thing, like, look at the Daniel Jones thing. Like, Daniel Jones went backwards 2 years in a row with Judge Shore overseeing the offense and the quarterback. So it's not crazy to think there was some tension there, Andrew, between the two. And I know it's your show, but I'm in this mode. I now want to interview you for a second. Is as simple as, and maybe you and Jeff talked about this, you might have on your podcast Wednesday. He didn't want to ruffle Saban's feathers. Is it that simple? Like, hey, Nick Saban's my buddy, I don't want to take Bill O'Brien for a year?
I think when we have the Belichick-Saban conversation about assistants, we always lose the agency of the coach in the middle. Like, Bill O'Brien's a 50-something, 49-year-old, whatever, old man. He can make his own calls. Yes, he has a contract, but if he really wanted to leave, he could make a mess in Alabama and come up to the NFL. I don't know if he did or if he didn't. I'm just saying that has to be considered when we do this. Well, if Belichick wanted this, did he not want to ruffle feathers? I think part of that, yes, that was in the documentary. O'Brien's contract is reportedly set to expire at the end of February. Should be up sooner if he's here in New England. But ultimately, I think it was that. I think, again, it was just the belief Belichick has in Patricia and Judge, who I said on EI last week that Patricia is seen as like his third son. And that's how it's treated. So when you believe in someone, you work so long with them. And Patricia's a very smart guy. Like, even people who aren't as big of fans of him, who have played under him or coached with him, will admit, yeah, he's an ex-rocket scientist, and it's clear. I think it was just misplaced belief, which over a 24-year run as a head coach in one place, you're going to have bad calls. That was one of them. That was it. What I want to get to now, though, is quickly, because these names are going to fade into the background, are Keenan McCardell, Sean Jefferson, Adrian Clem, and then Nick Haley. What did those names tell us about their search, or tell you, if indeed, which hasn't been confirmed or official or anything yet, if it is Bill O'Brien as the next offensive coordinator?
I don't know. I guess it wasn't really a search. It wasn't really, they wanted to name O'Brien from the beginning. He was the guy. Let's bring in guys who have some sort of tie to Belichick, either played for them or coached with him at some point over their careers, or played for the Patriots in the case of Clem, and let's give them a little bit of a bump. That's how other than Caley, the other three guys from outside the building, that's what it feels like to me. The Caley one is wild. Like, Andy Hart, who was loving Nick Caley last year, that guy never got a shot calling plays. Now the Jets are interested in him. So putting Caley aside, the three other guys just feel like, hey, they're friends of Bill, bring him in, get him on a phone call, interview, air quotes here, and then we'll eventually hire Bill O'Brien. It doesn't feel like a real search to me. Well, how about you?
I tend to agree. I think there's a few more layers to it, because if you're any of Jefferson, Clem, or Keenan McCardell, even if, let's say, you have a good relationship with Bill Belichick and are willing to do him a favor, fly across the country and do this interview and sit down, there's real valuable experience in them coming in.
Sure.
To sit for an offensive coordinator job. And I don't think any of them have held that position before. In fact, they haven't. So this is the first time that they would be able to theoretically hold that position. You get grilled from obviously the greatest coach of all time. You reconnect, you share some ideas. I think for Belichick also, it's a way to get some new ideas from people that he trusts. And yeah, he might be doing a solid to them and they're returning the favor. But, I think what also lacked last year was the new ideas. Where were the new ideas coming from? It's not from Patricia and Judge, who didn't have an offensive background. It's not the rest of the staff that had either been converted from defense to offense, guys like Ross Douglas or Vinny Cincinnati, even though Cincinnati hasn't coached defense for a long time. But they're young guys, they're inexperienced. Like, you bring in Sean Jefferson, who, as I said, coached offense for 16 years, coached Calvin Johnson. He's been with the Jets and the Dolphins and coached against the Patriots for all those years. Tell us what you think. What would you do differently? How would you coach this technique? Keenan McCardell just developed Justin Jefferson the last 2 years, developed Stephon Diggs in college. What can you do to help us and help Troy Brown and help Ross Douglas if they stay in these same positions? So the Patriots get some ideas, they get some experience, but you're right. I think all the reporting, which I default to until more recently, he's been their primary target. This is obvious. It'll work. Ownership wants him. Belichick too. That's what's going to happen. All right, let's fill in some names with guys that we trust that are willing to come here, and we could get something out of them too.
It also appeases the two-line press release from last week, right? You know, Bob Kraft wanting to be in the Crafts in general, wanting to be more open with the fan base after a down year. What do? We let them know about Mayo and full offensive coordinator search. Like, they saw how bad the offense was. They heard talk show hosts, fans, whatever, complaining about it. So, hey, we're going to appease you. We're going to have a full search. And technically they did that. 3 of the 4 guys are Bill guys or Patriot guys, but maybe some of those ideas help, because we'll get to it, I'm sure. The wide receiver thing is huge going forward for this team. And if they got any good ideas offensively at wide receiver, then it was worth whatever this was to get to Bill O'Brien.
Check out Screen Time, movies, streaming, and everything in between with us, Gary Tanguay and Drew Yada.
We watch what you watch, so watch us wherever you get your podcasts, or you can subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Yeah, and we're pretty easy on the eye.
Yeah, no, we're not.
Speak for yourself. Screen Time, movie streaming, and everything in between.